Success! Oh, hi. Glad you're here. I'm glad to be with you. This is part three. Part three. Why are you watching this if you haven't watched parts 1 and 2? And if you watched parts 1 and 2, why aren't you watching this? Is what I have to say. So, as I've said, I just want to get these stories on record in case I ever forget these things, and then I can watch these videos and go, oh yeah, that's all. I've had the honor and pleasure of meeting some pretty awesome celebrities because of mainly my local Comic-Con. That's all you need if you want to meet your heroes, okay? Time and money and resources, sometimes travel, but they came to me. So, to continue, parts 1 and 2, lots of fun stories. Okay, so now, let me tell you a little story. Where is it at? Oh, I think it's over there. His autograph's over there because my son was going through all the comics when we were going through all kinds of Ninja Turtle stuff. One sec. So I got all my Ninja Turtle crossover comics over here, including like this one artist signed this one. But there's one in particular that's really special because it has, where's it at? Come on, bear with me. I know this is dead air, but I'm trying to find this real quick because it's special and important. Here it is. I found it. Got it. Okay. When I was growing up, there was a show I would watch every week, every day, whatever it was. I enjoyed watching it because it was right before I went to karate. Ki! No, not the Power Rangers. That was before school. But after school, I would watch one of the greatest animated programs of all time, starring the one and only, if you ask me, and many others, Batman. Yes, my favorite live-action Batman is, well, I guess he was technically live-action now as well. I mean, you know, my favorite Batman will always be Val Kilmer, who I had a chance to meet at one of these Comic-Cons, but I didn't, I didn't. It's too expensive. But Kevin Conroy, rest in peace, was always my Batman. That will always be the voice of Batman. That will always be the true Batman. Batman the Animated Series, one of my favorite all-time programs. And Kevin Conroy, before he passed, was at my local Comic-Con and I got to meet him. To Paul and Flynn, Kevin Conroy, Batman. Great guy. Nicest guy in the world. He was so kind to me and my son. That was the same year I met Frylock and Joe DiMaggio plays Bender, yada yada, but it was very special. Where's my book? I'm missing my book that I need to look at the names so that I don't forget. But I seem to have misplaced it. Did I take it over there? Oh, I just put it over there because I went to get the comic. Gosh. Okay. Sorry about that. So yes, I got to meet Kevin Conroy. Rest in peace, Mr. Batman. We love you. You'll always be our Batman. It's very, very honored to have gotten that privilege. If you've seen the other videos, you know that I've been very honored to have the privilege of meeting a few celebrities who passed not too long after. So I count my blessings. I'm very thankful for my lame claim to fame, you know? Okay, so, got to meet Kevin Conroy. Ross McQuand. If you don't know who Ross McQuand is, he was on The Walking Dead. Okay? Now, he was one of my favorite characters on The Walking Dead at the time. Shortly before I fell off that show. But I found these videos when he would do these interviews for, like, I don't know, probably Vanity Fair and stuff like that. You should look them up. You're on YouTube right now. I don't care if you pause this video or stop it or do it afterward, whatever. But do yourself a favor and look up Ross Marquand impressions. This guy does the best impressions ever. And when I say that, I mean like as far as consistency and variety. Because he can do so many so good. My personal favorites are his Kevin Spacey and his Brad Pitt. Like, he can, some of his impressions, like, he doesn't even have to speak. Like, his Brad Pitt, oh my gosh. Ross Marquand, one of the greatest impressionists on the face of this planet of all time. Without a doubt. You don't believe me? Look it up, and you'll be like, holy cow, this guy's hilarious. So he was at a Comic-Con that I was at. And whenever I go to one of these Comic-Cons, there's always a list as long as my arm of celebrities I want to meet. But I've warmed up to it a little bit now when there's nobody at their table. But I always find it rude to just be like, hey, how's it going? I like you. I'm a fan. Good to meet you. Bye. And not kind of give them their, here's $60 for an autograph kind of thing, you know? That's why they're there. Got to make money. So I try not to approach celebrities unless I'm actually paying for an autograph. And I can never afford nearly as many autographs as I would like. So I've always got to pick and choose. But Ross Marquand was someone that I wish I could have afforded, but I couldn't. But I saw him there, and I was like, man. And nobody was at his table at this time. And I was walking by, and I looked over, and I made eye contact with him. And I was like, you know what? F it. If he's going to look at... Because he like smiled at me and, you know, was like, hey, what's up? And I stopped dead in my tracks, and I looked at him more serious than ever. And I said, you are the greatest impressionist of all time. And he was like, oh, thank you so much. And I was like, no, seriously. You are the best. I love your impressions. You know, he's expecting people to be like, oh, I love The Walking Dead and stuff like that. But I was like, no, dude. You are the greatest impressionist of all time. Period. The end. And he's like, thank you. Little did I know that when I said that to him, there was something coming down the line, because shortly thereafter that experience I had, I saw Avengers Infinity War. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, they got Hugo Weaving back as Red Skull. That's crazy. And then word got out, that wasn't Hugo Weaving. Who was it? Ross Marquand, who I believe has done Red Skull a few times and a few other things. And he's also taken over for certain people because he's that damn good. And I told him as such. So yeah. So I was glad to have that interaction with him, even though I didn't get to formally like get his autograph or a picture or anything. But he was very he did this. He was very very generous, very thankful. He really appreciated my compliment. But he knows how good he is at freaking impressions. I'm telling you, his Brad Pitt. Oh, it's freaking hilarious. Look it up. Who else? Weird Al Yankovic. I think I've been over this before when I went over in my videos of like bands that I've seen. I've seen Weird Al Yankovic like 13, 14, something like that times. And one time I paid for the VIP ticket to my son and I got to meet him, and there's a picture on the thumbnail and everything. And Weird Al was just a nice guy. You know, I grew up with him because my father listened to his music, and then I listened to his music, and then my son grew up with him because he listened to his music, and I got to express how grateful I was that one artist can bring together 3 generations of a family. Nice guy. Who else? I went over Lewis Black, by the way, in the first video. You should watch them. I don't understand why people watch. I mean, I'm not expecting anyone to watch these whatsoever. Don't worry. These are for me, not you. But if you are watching it, that's awesome. Great. Thank you so much. I just don't understand why people watch one part and then not the others. Yes, I get it. If you watched all these parts, you're probably talking like 2 hours, but there's nothing here. You don't have to look at it. You don't have to look at it. You can just listen to it. Okay, they're good stories, all right? Who have you met? Tell me. Comment below your favorite celebrity interaction. Anywho, David Yost, went over that. I did get to shake David Yost's hand. He played the original Blue Ranger Billy. Austin St. John, the original Red Ranger. In fact, where's the, I think they're in this one. That's right. Because this was the first appearance of the Power Rangers that took over that weren't in the original cast. So this is where I have their autographs. Which I believe would be... This is a great series, by the way, Power Ranger Pink. Where are they at? Come on now. I know you're in here. I know you're in here. One moment. Oh, that's where... Yeah. Catherine Sutherland, who took over for Amy Jo Johnson as the Pink Ranger. To Paul and Flynn, power up. Love and blessings, Catherine, a.k.a. Cat. And then that would be Adam from the movie, the Black Ranger from the original Power Rangers movie, who signed it in yellow. What are you doing, dude? And then the original Rocky, well, not the original, but the Rocky, the Red Ranger who took over for Jason in the original movie. Got his autograph there. But what is that, black or blue or something? Come on, guys. Everyone else knows what color to use. Sheesh. Anyway, so between those two comics, I got a lot of Power Ranger autographs. Where's David Yost, though? I'm not going to sit here and go through those. You get me. You get me. Who else did I get to meet at that Comic-Con? Now, I expressed in the last video, part 2, that I had the honor and privilege of... Because I grew up on Adult Swim. I was watching Space Ghost before there even was an Adult Swim. So I grew up for the birth of Adult Swim, when it was in its heyday, when it was the best thing ever. I'm talking Venture Brothers, I'm talking Aqua Teen Hunger Force, I'm talking Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, and I'm talking the GOAT, Sealab 2021. So I've discussed how I had the pleasure of meeting, well, not meeting, but I've interacted with Kate Miller, who played Debbie on Sealab 2021, her husband, John DiMaggio, who played Bender, and I met the guy who played Frylock on Aqua Teen Hunger Force. But the OG himself, I got to meet George Lowe, the man who has done voices on pretty much every single show. He even has a live action appearance in an episode of Sealab 2021 with MC Chris, with the fifth. George Lowe, a.k.a. Space Ghost of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I met him. Funniest freaking guy in the world. He signed... Do I have that CD somewhere? I do have the CD right here. Check it out. Oh, man, I just made a mess. See, this was like DVDs when I didn't have anything that they did to comics, and before I... Oh, look at this. See, look. Weird Al Yankovic. Okay? Paul, thanks, bro. Frylock. Okay? This is a DVD, by the way. It's a disc that you would put in to watch something before you could just click on an app. George Lowe, here we go. So I handed George Lowe... I handed George Lowe this because I intended for him to sign this disc. I just happened to be using whatever case I could find to keep the disc in. And this guy graffitied all over this thing. The only thing he put on the disc itself... What is this? This is a Rob Zombie case, by the way. The only thing he put on the disc itself was something for Brack to say. I pooped. So he then signs the front of this case on the... Okay. Oh my gosh. Paul and Flynn, George Lowe, August 23rd, 2019. Wow, this is right before the pandemic. Anyway, so wonderful. And then he did a panel. He was hilarious. I got to ask him questions. Like, nicest guy in the world. So funny, though. You could tell that he just loved making people laugh because he would not shut up. He just wanted to get a laugh, 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 get a laugh at anyone's expense. Kind of reminds me of someone. Anywho, but then on the back, snack tip. Bacon panties. Get your finger out of there. He's a funny guy. Apparently, this is where I recently gathered all of my... Oh, we'll go over that. See, Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit himself. Okay. The lady who played Divatox in Power Rangers Turbo. Okay. All right. You with me? You following here? Oh, that's the Lego Masters. I met a couple of Lego Masters at my local Bricks and Minifigs grand opening recently. Oh, so I got little stickers and stuff. Anyway. This has nothing to do with anything. Apparently, I was recently watching Go. Great movie. Oh, Life's Too Short. Yeah, I met Warwick Davis. Great show. Check it out. These have nothing to do with anything, though. I don't know why they're even out. Yeah, okay, Jen. Gotcha. What's this? Oh, we'll save that one then, I guess, because he's coming up. I think. Moving on. This isn't boring at all. Hello. Okay, here we go. Let's see. So, yes, George Lowe, great guy, shook his hand, Space Ghost, freaking coast to coast. Oh my gosh. And then I met Lance Henriksen. Lance Henriksen. Okay, let me tell you who Lance Henriksen is. Because you know, he's been in a billion things. He had an X-Files spin-off show called Millennium. He is in so many things. He was in the original Terminator. He is Bishop. That's what I mainly knew him from. Bishop from the Alien series, both Aliens and Alien 3. I got to meet him, and this was shortly after Detroit, the video game, came out. And he's phenomenal in that game. He's in that game, so I brought that up. There's two things I wanted to bring up to him, because I was like, hey man, I played Detroit. Your performance in that game was so great. Your character almost made me cry. Like, I was devastated when spoiler alert, when he died. And he was like, you know what? That's the best job I've ever had. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, doing Detroit was the best job I ever had. Because it was just a voiceover, and we did it in Paris. So I just spent a few months hanging out in Paris getting paid. And I was like, all right, that does sound like a pretty good gig. And then I brought up, he also did voice work in I would be here for an hour if I told you how extremely monumental and important to me Tron is, because, long story short, my son wouldn't exist without Tron. My son is named after the film series. His name is Flynn. And Lance Henriksen, there's a show called Tron Uprising, an amazing show that unfortunately was canceled after one season, but it's so good, starring Elijah Wood and Bruce Boxleitner, the original Tron himself. The animation is gorgeous. The story is phenomenal. It's got Paul Reubens, rest in peace, in it. It's on Disney Plus. Seek it out. Show them how much you love Tron, because we really want that Tron 3. But Lance Henriksen plays the bad guy. Tesla? Something like that. So I brought up that to him. I was like, oh man, I loved you in Tron. And he goes, Tron? He goes, that character was my daughter's favorite. Because he had a cape. That's when you know you're cool, is when your kid thinks you're cool. But she only thought I was cool once I had a cape. You're not cool until you have a cape. It's like, all right. See, this is what I'm talking about. These interactions. I'm not just, hey, nice to meet you, bye. Like, I'm conversing with these people. They're telling me these amazing stories. Love it. So I got to meet Lance Henriksen. I got his autograph right here. This is a comic book I got back in the 90s. I have the whole series, but this one in particular is the first appearance of Bishop in this particular comic. Bam. Lance Henriksen. Now, what I love about this, talk about a personal experience. I don't know what this says, though. We are true? I don't know what this says. Lance Henriksen, it says, like, we are Tron, maybe? No. T-R... I'll never know what this says. Do you know what it says? Comment below if you have any idea what this word right here is. No clue. So he said, who do you want me to... Who am I making this out to? I said, to Paul and Flynn. He made it out to Paul and Paul. He's older. He's much, much older. But I remember he was looking through this. See, there's Bishop. He was like, whoa, I've never seen this. This artwork is phenomenal. I really like this. I was like, yeah. Yeah, this comic is from 1992. I wonder if it's worth anything now. But it's made out to Paw Paw. We are... For I'll never know. A mystery. Makes it even more special, right? So yeah, Lance Henriksen. Google him. You'll see that he's been in about 1 billion things that you love. Yeah, I need to stop losing my space because I'm just boring people with all this nonsense. But again, this is for me. Not for you, but thanks for joining me. Robert Patrick. Do you know who Robert Patrick is? Because I shook his hand. I met him. Great guy. Yeah, he played the T-1000 in the little film called Terminator 2. And he's been in many, 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 many other things since, including a few seasons of The X-Files. Yeah, X-Files is one of my favorite shows. Yeah, I got to meet him. But of all the stuff he's been in, which is a lot, and he's amazing, the thing I had to bring up was the most terrifying film I've ever seen in my life. Fire in the Sky. And I was like, dude, Fire in the Sky scares the crap out of me. And I was like, yeah, MT Motors. You know, he's like, oh yeah. So then he goes off about how he has a motorcycle shop in California and I should come in and say hello. And I was like, okay, thanks for the friendly invitation, but I don't think I'm going to be in California anytime soon. So I had him sign my X-Files disc where he's on. See, that's Robert Patrick. And that's his autograph. Isn't that lovely? Great guy, though. He's a very nice guy. He was very enthusiastic about meeting me. Had his motorcycle jacket. So yeah, I shook his hand, met him. We mentioned Kate Miller. Bill Lobley is somebody who follows me on Instagram. He is the voice of Sparks in C-Lab 2021. So that's cool. Amid Abtai? What? I don't know who that is. But I met him. Jeff Anderson. I know who these people are, I swear. Jeff Anderson. Well, this must have been like the most recent Comic-Con, so I should know who they are. Chloe Sevigny responded to my comment once on her Instagram post. Just saying. Because I love her. And it was like the day before my birthday a couple years ago. She likes a lot of my comments. She's done some meet and greets in New York recently, but I don't live in New York. If I could afford it, yeah, I would go to New York just to meet Chloe Sevigny. Maybe someday. She'll never be on a Comic-Con circuit because she's everyone's muse and a fashion icon and an award-winning actress who will never need such things. Maybe someday, though. I can dream. Someday I'll go to New York just so... Anyway, the most recent Comic-Con last year, I got to meet a few people, including... What is all of this? Oh, we're good with this. Now, the cool thing about this... Bonnie Peace. Check her out on Instagram. She's doing some great spiritual stuff now. It's great, like meditation type, like self-care stuff. She's great. But so I got to tell her this too, and she's exactly my age. I didn't know this back in 1999. If you watched part 1 of this series, you'll know that I went to the original 2 Star Wars Celebrations. When I went to the one in 2002 for episode 2, both Joel Edgerton and Bonnie Peace were there because they play Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. They, of course, returned for Kenobi. They both did, right? I know she did. I think they both did. Yeah, they both did. Yeah, they both did. I like Kenobi. Anyway, she was totally awesome in that show, but this is before I knew that she was awesome. Was this right after? I think it was before. Maybe it was after? Yeah, it was after. Because it was like, she had all this merch about Aunt Beru kicking butt. Yeah. because Aunt Beru kicks butt in that show. But when I saw her in 2002 at the age of 19, little did I know she was 19 as well. I remember she sang, and I was like, I have a crush on her. She's pretty. True story. So when I met her last year, I was like, hey, I saw you when you were 19. Yeah, that would have been exactly 20 years prior. I was like, I saw you 20 years ago at that second celebration. She's like, oh, she was so sweet. So sweet. So I got her autograph. I got a picture with her with my son. And I was like, you're amazing, and I love you, and I had such a crush on her, and then I came back, and I told her that, I was like, I have a crush on you, and she was like, okay, creepy, get away from me. No, she was sweet. But I remember coming back around, and there was, like, right across from her table was somebody selling a crap ton of Funko Pops. And I was like, you need a Funko Pop. And this sweetest lady, I believe she's Australian, but she now lives in, like, Europe. But she was like, what's a Funko Pop? And I'm like, is she serious? She literally had no idea what a Funko Pop was. I got to teach Bonnie Peace what a Funko Pop is. But I got this picture. And the reason I got this picture is because this particular picture is the first time I ever saw her. It was when they revealed like the costume tests in like Star Wars Insider magazine. Ooh, here's your first look at Aunt Beru in episode 2. So I was like, I want that picture. Look at that. Look at that beautiful face. Look at her. Like 18 years old in that picture. And now, she looks even more gorgeous at the age of 40. I can tell you that right now. To Paul, may the force be with you. Beru. Love it. Gorgeous. So, we got to meet her. That was great. And we also got to meet someone who, thank goodness, is still with us. After he was bullied online for so many years for something that wasn't his fault, even though he changed the game. And I told him as such. But thank goodness he came back in full force. Ahmed Best. The man who played Jar Jar Binks. So I got to meet him. We were very thrilled to meet him. And he was very generous. He was nice. Shook his hand. He's like, yeah, okay, cool. Actually, no, I didn't shake his hand. He was a little standoffish, but I think I know why. We thought maybe like he was sick of all the Jar Jar attention, but I think it was because in his mind he was like, if they only knew. Because we met him screaming about Jar Jar and how much we love Jar Jar. And I said, what did I say to him? I said, I quote Jar Jar on like a daily basis. And he goes, me too. And I don't know if that was a joke of like, I also quote Jar Jar, or if what he meant was, I am Jar Jar, so when I speak, I'm technically quoting Jar Jar. I don't know which he meant. Either way, it was funny. And Flynn, my son, he was like, ask him to do the voice. And I'm like, actually, son, that's kind of rude. He's not a clown for me to ask to do tricks for, and I'm not going to do that. And he's probably trying to, kind of get away from the Jar Jar scene. But little did we know at the time that a couple of months later, he was going to blow the world's minds by being a complete badass as a Jedi rescuing, spoiler alert, a Jedi rescuing Grogu on Mandalorian Season 3. When we saw that episode, not only was it the coolest thing ever, and he immediately became one of my favorite Jedis of all time, and my son and I watched every single episode of that Temple Challenge kids game show. Oh, we did. We were familiar with that character. But to see that character on Mandalorian saving Grogu, kicking butt, oh my gosh. He must have been... He was signing those autographs at that Comic-Con being like, wait till they see how awesome I am in a couple of months. And I'm like, we met him, son. How awesome is that? So that was a pretty cool experience. And I told him, I said, this is why I wanted this picture specifically. To Paul and Flynn. Jar Jar Binks. Because I told him, you revolutionized filmmaking. He was the first to do this kind of on-set mocap. Okay? I told him, I said, there would be no... What was the other one I said? There would be no... I brought up a couple, but specifically it was... What's the most recent one? I think it was Thanos. I was like, there would be no Thanos without you. There would be no Gollum without you. You changed the game. Thank you so much. And he was like, oh, thanks. I know. No, he was a great guy. So that was last Comic-Con. By the way, side note, I should have mentioned this before. Someone I got to meet randomly, coincidentally, I was working at my movie theater, and this was before I got promoted, so I was just crew. I might have been a supervisor at the time, actually, because I remember going to the office and telling them. And I was the only employee in that building who would have any idea. And he happened to come up to my register. And I sold him a Smart Water and 2 tickets to The Lion King, the live-action one, a few years ago. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And he knew that I knew, and I was like, thanks. So he knew that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting royalty right now. I met Scott Hamilton. I served him at my movie theater. He got a Smart Water. Olympian gold medalists get Smart Water. You're probably like, who the heck's Scott Hamilton? It's before your time. He's a gold medalist figure skater. One of the greatest figure skaters of all time. And he came up to my register. And I was the only person who had any idea who he was. And I was like, thank you, Mr. Hamilton. So that was cool. But last and not least, the last person I met at the last Comic-Con I was at, somebody I really wanted to interact with for something. His name is Tom Arnold. You probably know him from a million things. Not just as Roseanne's ex-husband. But Tom Arnold, okay? To Paul, Tom Arnold. Okay? That's Tom Arnold. Okay? Not him. That's some other guy. That's Tom Arnold. All right? I brought an ice cube tray. Okay, True Lies. This is from True Lies. One of my favorite films of all time. I believe True Lies is Schwarzenegger's greatest film. Period. Change my mind. You won't. I believe that True Lies is James Cameron's greatest film of all time. You can't change my mind. It is. Fantastic action film. Great comedy. Schwarzenegger has never been that funny in anything else. Anyway, Tom Arnold is also hilarious in that, and so is the late, great Bill Paxton. But Tom Arnold, I brought an ice cube tray because Tom Arnold has one of my favorite lines in that movie. When Schwarzenegger's character finds out, well, he doesn't find, he suspects that his wife is cheating on him. So he explains this to his partner, and Tom Arnold is like, oh, welcome to the club, pal. You know, my second wife, I woke up one night and everything was gone. She even took the ice cube trays out of the freezer. What kind of a sick bitch takes the ice cube trays out of the freezer? I've always loved that line. Love that line. Used it a lot when I got divorced. So I brought this ice cube tray that I had because it was like rubbery because it's a Lego one. Makes little Lego bricks. It's pretty cool actually. And I wanted him to sign that. But again, this is when I learned, oh, you're going to be paying extra if you want them to sign something personal, but you can just pick a picture and pay regular price. So I was like, okay. So she was like, his little handler was like, it's going to cost you extra for the ice cube tray. And I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it then. Because I saw this picture. He had a lot of pictures to choose from. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's sitting on a toilet in Austin Powers. You show that turd who's boss. That would have been the second thing I would have brought up. But I said, well, I'll just get this picture because this is the exact moment. Or at least the scene. This is the moment when he says that line. I'm like, perfect. I'll have him sign this. But I'm telling this to his handler, and he must have overheard it. So I go and I meet him. I'm like, hey, I shake his hand. I got my picture with him. Might be the thumbnail. And he says, you know, that's a true story. And I said, excuse me? So not only did I get to, like, geek out meeting this guy and expressing how much I love that movie and how much I love that line, I get a story about it, and I'm going to tell it to you now. I said, true story? What do you mean? I said, yeah, that's true story. What happened was, and he didn't name drop, but he was clearly talking about Roseanne. Okay? He says, well, me and Arnold were hanging out one night. There was probably a lot of drugs involved. He left that part out of the story. But he just mentioned that they were having a lot of smoothies and health shake stuff. So for the blender, they needed to get a bunch of ice. So they had to go out and buy a bunch of ice cube trays to make sure they had enough ice for all their blended drinks they were making. And he says then the next day he wakes up and his whole place was ransacked. his ex-wife's, Roseanne, her people, as he put it, came in while they were passed out and took all the stuff, like cleared the place out. Even the ice cube trays out of the freezer. But the best part of the stories was the ice cube trays isn't even the best. He said they even took the batteries out of the remotes. Who does that? So I'm like, wow, this is a great story. And he goes, yeah. So the next day I was telling that story in the makeup trailer. And James Cameron overheard it and said, hey, you should put that in the movie. And I'm just like, ear to ear grin, getting this exclusive story from Tom freaking Arnold about one of my favorite lines in cinema history being a true freaking story that was even worse with the batteries from the remotes. And that's where we're at. I will meet more people because I will go to more Comic-Cons, and I'm looking forward to it. It sucks that I missed this year. Only the second one that I've missed locally. Again, I blame Shatner. But yeah, I'll be going next year. Hopefully I won't be in this financial grind that I'm currently in, because that should all be said and done sometime in March or April. We'll see. But the important thing's taken care of. But yeah, go ahead and meet your heroes. Sometimes they won't disappoint. Especially when you're a fan giving them money. But yeah, that Tom Arnold experience was great. And all the wonderful interactions that these people had with my son. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed these stories as much as I enjoyed telling them. I'm shocked that I only had to do 3 parts. I really thought there was going to have to be a 4th. This one's running a little long, though. So, TTFN, count your blessings and be thankful. Don't take anything for granted. It's these memories that make our lives worthwhile. And remember, a handshake is better than an autograph, and a picture is better than a handshake. Okie dokie.